I plan on reviewing every Pacific Rim kaiju I own before moving on to any other toys. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Myst, and today we're going to be reviewing the Bandai Movie Monster series Kamata Kun from the 2016 film Shin Godzilla. Kamata Kun is Shin Godzilla's second evolutionary form, crawling onto land much to the surprise of the Japanese government. He rampaged through the city, knocking aside cars and buildings until evolving into his third form, but that's for another video. In this video today, I would just like to preface by saying, firstly, thank you for watching. Secondly, sorry with the bit of a lackluster upload schedule recently. College has been tough. But thirdly, in my previous review on the figure Knifehead by NECA, I used a specific format to go through different parts to finally put together my opinion on the figure by the end. And I will be doing that same thing here. We're going to be starting with details, followed by paintwork, articulation, accuracy, and finally the price. And I'll be using this method for every video going forward reviewing figures. So, beginning with the detail, the Movie Monster series always seems to do an awesome job with their sculpts, and really, Kamata Kun is just no exception. He has some very nice detailing all around, including on his head, with most of the sculpting here looking a lot less like scales and more like a shrink-wrapped but well-defined muscly texture. It makes for a very unique look that I think is really cool, but it also, in a way, has this nasty feel too. But it's a good thing, not so much a bad thing. Kamata Kun here has really gigantic eyes, which are sculpted really nicely, followed by his teeth, which really aren't sculpted at all. They're more like small bumps that have been painted over, and honestly, I can't really blame them for that. I still think they look good, and the only company that I'd personally ever expect to maybe do otherwise would SH Monster Arts, but well, they... Continuing down Kamata Kun's neck, there's this really nice detailing with these gills. They kind of flop out to the sides here, and I really like the detailing of them. They have this little feathering effect. It looks like real gills, and it just makes this figure all the more cool. So, moving further down the body here, we get this little chest spike at the base of the neck, and then we begin the dorsal plates down Kamata Kun's back. The dorsals here are really nice, and I don't have much to say about them besides that I think that they're great. I actually really like the shading that's been done, probably unintentionally to save Bandai money, but it still looks really nice. But this is more of a paint thing than a detail thing. Regardless, Kamata Kun has his proto-arms bulging out here to the sides, and just behind them you can actually see his ribs. Moving to the legs, we get this spike at the top, which I find really odd. It's not something I've ever noticed on Kamata Kun's in-film design, but it never translates to Shin Godzilla himself either. And regardless, though, of that, the knees, the legs, and the feet here are all really well done. Finally, we get to the tail, and the dorsal plates begin to trail off very rapidly in a natural way, and I like how it doesn't feel sudden or abrupt. This vein here in Kamata Kun's tail also starts to become really noticeable, and I love this addition to the design to help spice the look up. At the end of the tail here, Bandai sculpted some detail to the soon-become face, and I really appreciate that. It just adds some extra detail to the figure, especially since they could have gotten away with not doing that. So, in terms of detail, I would rank it an entire full star. Moving on to the paint on Kamata Kun is honestly very well done for a Movie Monster series figure. Lately, in the year of our Lord, 2025, we've been getting some fairly mediocre paint jobs for the line. Not naming anything too specific here, but regardless, this is really nice. Beginning at the head, Kamata Kun's body is covered in this desaturated green color. It looks almost sickly and rotting, and I really like how unnatural it looks. He's got these big off-white colored eyes that lend really well to the feeling of him being a creature from the deep ocean, and his pupil seems to be a darker green than the color for the rest of his body, which I think is odd. Normally I'd expect a black pupil, or a pupil that would be the same green as his body, but for some reason they decided to go ahead and paint the pupil in a totally different color from anywhere else on his body. Maybe this was the base coat, but regardless, it's interesting, and I honestly don't mind. Moving on from the eyes though, Kamata Kun has some very well painted teeth, for the most part, and a fleshy, glossy pink look to the inside of his mouth. Unfortunately, some of the pink does bleed off the gums on my copy and has ended up on the face, which is somewhat noticeable, so that is a bit of a letdown, but regardless, it's not the end of the world and I still love it. We get the same color pink here on the gills. It's painted very well. And for the rest of the body, there's really no variation besides the dorsals here, which are a brown color towards the top and fade to that sickly green at the bottom. Despite the fact that there isn't any sort of masterful color scheme for a Movie Monster series figure, this is still really well done and I would give it a full star. As for articulation, there's nothing much to speak of on this figure. We get a 360-degree rotation on his legs at the thigh, and that's it. I do wish we could have gotten a side-to-side head movement, or a rotation, or tail movement, but considering this is a Movie Monster series figure and is on the smaller side, I'll give it a pass. So full star there for articulation too. In terms of accuracy, this figure is pretty good. Despite it being a Movie Monster series figure, it doesn't feel too cartoony or lackluster, and I think it does a great job of representing Kamata Kun without costing an arm and a leg. So easy full star there too. And up next for you guys here are some size comparisons so you know how big Kamata Kun is compared to your collection. First we've got the Bandai Movie Monster series Shin Godzilla, which I repainted, and Shinagawa-kun, followed by a horde of monkeys. Then the two tin cans, one from Playmates and a knockoff Bandai, followed by some various Godzillas, which you may or may not have in your collection of varying scales, followed by, again, two icy lizards, who are probably pretty common today in people's collections, and finally, a gaggle of random Godzilla figures that I also believe are fairly common additions to see in people's collections. And for the price, well, let's finally get to it. I got this figure back in 2018, so 2 years after it released when Shin Godzilla came out, and it was my first Toho Godzilla figure, along with Biollante, who came with him in the same parcel, funny enough, on my birthday that year, so it was very exciting to finally get this figure in hand. Kamata Kun cost me about $25 Canadian, and for that price, yeah, I would say it's honestly pretty worth it. I think $20 would be more fitting, but $25 I still find to be acceptable, so full star there. Kamata Kun nowadays is much more expensive and honestly kind of hard to find, and I would say don't bother picking this one up if you can't find it for more than under $30, no matter the currency. So while a cool figure, it's just not worth any more than that. I think this figure's great. I'm super glad to have it in my collection, and while there are things I would change if I was making it, it's a great figure. So do I recommend this one to anybody? Absolutely. Like I said earlier, it's really not worth more than $30 in any currency, but if you happen to find Kamata Kun for a good price, pick him up. You won't regret adding him to your collection. Thank you all for watching. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video, and like I said at the beginning, there's been a lot of factors, and I'm really sorry about that. I'm in college right now. Art classes, woohoo! I'm actually learning animation, so very exciting time, but man, do I not have time for anything else. I'm hoping this year to get a bit of a better schedule with my uploads, part of my New Year's resolution, if you want to call it that, and figure reviews are on the easier side to make, so really that's what I aim to make the most of during this time. So once again, if you're still here to the end, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to more videos in the future, and I just want to thank you all for a great year in 2024 that I had. I got a lot of subscribers, and my channel grew more than I ever thought it would in a shorter time than it ever has before. So here's to another great year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can break 1K this year. I think that would just be awesome. So, yeah, have a great day, guys. See you next time. Peace.